For example, for me, I used to go to car shows as a child, and I was never allowed to hop in or touch the car because, and that's fine, everyone's different, but for me it's, if someone came to me and said, can we go for a drive, I'd say jump in, because I think that's how I see cars. If you're lucky enough to have something which you dreamed of and somebody else shares the same dream, that's what I think car collecting is about. Hi, I'm Adrian Morani. This is my 1990 Lancia Delta Integrale. I grew up, when I was growing up in Italy, these cars were my dream. Lancia was winning every World Rally Championship every year, constantly, and being an Italian child, obviously, Ferrari, Lancia, Lamborghini, you grew up just loving your cars, and I had a poster of the Lancia on my wall for probably 7 years, and the poster probably lasted longer than the wall. I always wanted one of these cars, and this particular car is a 16 valve 1990 model, which is the first of the Integrales which went on to win the rallies. Then they had the Evos and so forth, but this is the basic one that sort of created history. For me, it was always one of those things where, in my 20s, even in my early 30s, it was one of those cars that you hoped you'd have one day, but never thought you would. And obviously, luckily for me, things happened in life where I was able to find one at the right place at the right time for the right price. And obviously, it needed a little bit of work, still does, but for me, it's just one of those things that you love because it's not so much a job. It's like slowly making a dream come true. Cars for me is that, you know what I mean? When I work a lot, I've got businesses, and for me, probably apart from my family, cars are a very, very big joy. It's a way for me to sort of relax, So yeah, it's by no means perfect, which I actually like. I think personally, I like cars that you can drive, you can hop into. You don't worry about other people, liking them. For example, for me, I used to go to car shows as a child, and I was never allowed to hop in or touch the car because. And that's fine, everyone's different, but for me it's, if someone came to me and said, can we go for a drive, I'd say jump in, because I think that's how I see cars. If you're lucky enough to have something which you dreamed of and somebody else shares the same dream, that's what I think car collecting is about. One of those cars that a lot of people see you driving around it and just think it's a hatchback with stickers on it, but then you have a whole era of people who will come up to you and share a story of either how much they love those years of rallying, or how much they always wanted one, or even older people who tell you about the time they had with their Integrale before they let it go, because at the time, you know, this was considered a car for the young, especially in Italy. A lot of young, I suppose, hot rodders at the time had it purely because they didn't realise the value it would be worth later on in years. Yeah, look, I love this car. I'll probably never let go of it. It's just, when you hop into it, it's one of those cars that still scares you enough to keep you alive. It's still old enough to make you really feel the road, feel the curves, feel how, you know, it's one of the first cars where Integrale means integral four-wheel drive. So it's one of the first cars that had an all-wheel drive system. And even though it's primitive by today's standards, it's still something which blows you away, you know. And the fact that it's got the old school turbo, which you sort of come along and you hear it spool up and then you feel it, rather than, you know, it's modern cars, everything works efficiently, whereas this thing is more hear it, hold on, and then it's just a completely surreal feeling, you know. And it's also learning to drive these cars. It's a beauty in itself, because you learn to prepare, even when you're driving fast, you know, you learn to prepare for the turbo to kick in. It's, you know, when you go into a curve, you want to keep the turbo spooling. So it's just one of those things where I find cars from this era are sort of in a sort of pigeonhole of their own. You know, I collect other cars from the 70s and so forth, which are, you know, very big motors, lots of torque, but you know what to expect. And then I've also got modern cars which everything works so perfectly that, you know, you can be driving, not that I do, but you could easily drive a 200 plus k's an hour and think you're a competent driver, because they, you know, they've got driver assist, they've got really good ABS, they've got great traction control. But a car like this has none of that, but it's still got all the power in such a small car, so it really teaches you how to respect a car. I've only just managed to get this car on the road recently, so we haven't had many stories to share yet. But I think it's going to be one of those cars. From what I've experienced with it so far, you know, I picked it up from the Spirit of Tasmania ferry in Port Melbourne, and I remember I was just going to pick it up, drive it to the car freight company. I drove probably 100 metres, stopped at a cafe to grab a coffee. It was early morning, and the barista, you know, first thing he said was Lancia Delta, again, an Italian man in his 60s, Lancia Delta Integrale. Started just automatically speaking Italian about it. Obviously I could understand, but, you know, it just brought that up. Then stopped at a service station, probably half a kilometre up the road, and by the time I put petrol in it, and again, at the time I was very self-conscious. I thought this is something which people are going to probably laugh at. But I walked out and there was, you know, six mechanics from the neighbouring business going on about this car, telling me things that I didn't even know about the car, you know what I mean? So, and I just know in time, the more experiences I have with it, the more I'll learn, and the more I'll have to share. The great thing though about this car is that, again, you know, everyone sort of smiles, everyone sort of waves, you know, thumbs up. People that know, and it's nice to have a car which, you know, makes other people feel good, or makes other people relive their own memories. Even if they don't share it with you, you can see in their face, it's definitely something which brings joy to others, and that's what I find with the Lancia.